Among the different characteristics of human language, cultural transmission is one. It means that language is transferred through culture. So, inheritance of physical feature. We inherit physical feature from our parents. For example, we may inherit physical feature of brown eyes, dark hair from our parents, but we do not inherit language from our parents. Language in a culture with other speakers and not from parental genes. So we do not have anything of the language in our genes that help us speak a certain language, the language of our parents. So language is only culture specific. Animals do inherit communication calls. So far as animals are concerned, we all know that they repeat the calls of their parents. Even one animal kept in isolation will still be producing the same call. For example, a kitten will always produce meow, irrespective of it having other kittens or even its own mother. It will produce the same. And beside that, if we take one kitten from one society, one culture, and take it anywhere else, it will produce the same call. However, this is not possible for human beings. If we take a child from a Korean culture and the child is brought up in America, United States, the child will speak English as he finds it in his culture, right? He would not be speaking any of his parents' language. So this process whereby language is passed on from one generation to the next is described as cultural transmission. So as we said that the way a language is transformed from parents, from one generation to another generation is a matter of cultural transmission. So language very specifically is transformed, is transferred through culture. Without a culture, if a child is put in an isolation, the child will not be able to speak. So humans are born with some kind of predisposition to acquire language in a general sense. However, we do know that all human beings have this capacity to use language. I mean, they are not without the capacity to use language, but this language is in its general sense. Language, any language, not a language like English, like Urdu, like any. I mean, the child of an English parentage will not be using English language if the child is reared or brought up in some other culture. Though the ability to use languages will always be there. Human acquires their first language as children in a culture. So we need a culture to use a certain language. We cannot use language without culture. We need to be in an English culture. We need to be in a Muslim culture. We need to be in a Christian culture. We need to be in any other culture. And we will acquire the language of the culture. As we acquire the belief of our culture, similarly, we acquire the language of our culture. This process, whereby we have already discussed that this is cultural transmission. The general pattern in animal communication is that creatures are born with a set of specific signals that are produced instinctively. So animals produce their language, as I said, instinctively, irrespective of the place, irrespective of the fact that they are with their parents or not. However, some studies have been made in this regard that birds were taken up from other birds and kept in isolation. There, they did not listen to any calls, any songs of their parents, but they were able to produce certain songs. But these songs in isolation, without having any exposure to the songs of other birds of the same species, would a little bit abnormal or a little bit different. So this is what we have experienced among birds, that if they are kept away from other birds and they are not given exposure to listen to the songs, they may have a different or abnormality in their songs. So human infants growing up in isolation will obviously have no language, and experiments have shown that they would not be able to speak. So cultural transmission of a specific language is a crucial thing to teach children to speak. Culture is a must. A group of people is a must. A society is a must to learn language. Without culture, without society, without a group of people, human beings, human children cannot learn a language.